Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and there are just some days you really look forward to, and today is one of those days because it has been a solid week and a half since I've been reading Yona the Dawn, and I was having withdrawals. No! I did the math. I have been reading Yona of the Dawn, watching it, reading it week to week for over a year now, for nearly 15 months. And this was the first time in that span of time that I had to take a week off, and I didn't like it. So I'm not looking forward to when I catch up with the manga and have to wait for the volumes to come out. It's not going to be a fun time. Romania's not going to have a great time because I knew this one was coming out on October 4th. Today is October 4th, and so I was at work all day. It's been so stressful and so busy, and it's just that time of the year. And I was just sitting there being like, I really want to read this when I get home. And it's late tonight. I got home late for my night class, and I was like, nope, not waiting. I'm going to sit down and read it. I've just been so excited for volume 37. So, and the cover is Hawk, and he looks beautiful. It's great. So yeah, volume 37. Oh my gosh. So we'll talk about what we're going to do after this volume, since this is the last English official release that we're going to have for a while. We'll talk about what we're going to do after that. But I have a few comments before we start, but I just could not wait. I got home. I've literally gave Huck a drink and taken him out and been like, okay, I got to sit down and do this. So let's talk about volume 37. I went back and reread volume 36 though, before I started recording this, just to catch myself up, because it's been a week and a half, right? And I do want to make a few notes. There's two comments I want to talk about from YouTube that I wanted to bring back up. Florencia Solis talked about how Zeno, I hadn't even thought about this during the discussion of volume 36. Zeno technically is the first priest of Hiryu Palace, because he was the dragon. He was tied to the priesthood, and in the flashback he was tied to kind of the temple and everything, and then he left. And so Soo-won asking him to become king is kind of insane. Yuhan is rolling in his grave that Soo-won would ask the first priest of Hiryu to be the king. You're giving the priesthood the power, right? Even though Zeno's not been a priest for a very, very long time. It's still just the concept that he was at one point, and that Soo-won would consider him to be the king. That's huge. So I thought that was a really good thing to bring up. It's very interesting. Zeno's been not surprisingly, very mysterious the last couple volumes, and he's taken kind of a liking to Soo-won. I'm sure he's reminded a lot of the original King Hiryu from him. So Zeno's going to be interesting going into these later volumes, I feel. I feel like he's going to have stuff tied to him, and you all seem to think that as well. But Algy Malgum also noted this. I didn't think about this as well in volume 36, that the idea that Quelbo, he could end up showing up again alongside the Thule tribe in Euron, because he was kind of riled up because his sister had been married off to a Kai Empire Lord. So I could see him totally coming to aid Yona if something happens on the battlefield. I could totally see that too, especially because he respected Yona and liked her. So, and if she just conveniently is on the battlefield with Soo-won as Kishuk wants her to be, why not? So yeah, that's a really cool and interesting point to bring up. And then everybody's been talking about the Senju herb and what it's going to amount to. And I don't think it's going to be a cure-all. I agree with a lot of you that I don't think it's going to be a cure-all and cure Soo-won necessarily, but I do like the idea that one, it might alleviate his pain. So he still has the crimson sickness, but he's just not feeling the symptoms. And then two, it could end up being something that he cultivates to help other people in Koka, and that ends up becoming part of his legacy. So I could see that going either way too, but y'all, Kusanagi, I've been waiting for volume 37, and we'll do 38, 39, 40 after this, but I'll talk about it after we're done. So with that being said, I'm really excited. I've wasted enough time. I'm so hyped. Let's just do the darn thing. And we're going to look at volume 37 of Yona the Dawn here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Why is this series giving me so much anxiety? No! Why? Kusanagi, why? Yeah, no, it is a very, very, very good thing that I am not waiting to read volumes 38, 39, and 40. No. See, here's the thing. I've debated it before we start talking about this series. I debated it for a very long time because I want to keep supporting Kusanagi and I want to keep buying the anime, the manga volumes. And so I've been buying the English translation versions up until this one came out today. But I looked at volume 38 and the English version's not coming out until March of next year. I'm like, are you joking? I was like, if they had said December, I'd been like, okay, I could wait a couple months and buy the English version of that. But no, like March, that's like 6 months from now. And they're already on volume 40 of the Japanese one. So I'm like, are you serious? So, or at least they have enough chapters they could get up to volume 40. So I was like, dang it. So yeah, I've been sent a link to the entire fan translated version of volume 38, which is what I'm going to read next week. And then volume 39 has some fan translations, so I'm going to do that. And I think there's enough translations for enough chapters to be volume 40. And then I'll have to wait like a solid couple months before volume 41's ready. But if this, considering this is like the wartime arc with Kin Province and the Kai Empire, then yeah, I want to read it. And I want to read it now because I'm like, I want to know what's happened to Hak. I refuse that he's dead. Absolutely not. Nope. Not going to believe he's dead. Not having it. I'm in permanent denial. No. And the thing of it is, I think Yona, she was in denial of it too because the dream that she's been having has been putting the Dragon Warriors and Soo-won and Maignan in danger, but Hak was not included in that at all. And now I'm like, why? It's like Hak has been the one mainstay for Yona that she's never considered to be something that she'd lose. Like she tells Soo-won at the very end of the volume, Hak has always been a mainstay. Like, if anybody's going to survive, it's going to be him. And so she's like, no, I don't. She's like, there's no way I'm going to accept that he's going to die. And it's like, I have fears with this volume, but man, I was, volumes 32 through 34 were like anxiety-ridden volumes that gave me like this horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. And then volumes 35 and 36, it was like, Kusanagi's like, well, I've traumatized you enough. I'll reward you with these volumes. And in this volume, it just went right back into the trauma. And I'm like, Kusanagi! So, I am going to miss the afterword. That's going to be sad, not having the afterword from that volume. But, no. And the fact that Hak, it was just him, like, all battered and bruised in this. Hak is not normal. There's something about Hak. I refuse to believe he's a normal human being because there's no way. Now, it's like we've talked about in the comments, I don't want him to be tied to, like, the mythology or anything of this series. But at the same time, I'm like, there's no way he's human. There's no way there's not some kind of divine presence surrounding him because how did he survive all of that? And if he survives the flood with the Senju herb, I have my hopes and dreams with that damn Senju herb, and I want them to happen, but I don't know if it's going to happen or not. But I have my headcanon of what I want to see happen, and it's just not there yet. And I have a feeling Kusanagi is just waiting for us to get there. But what do we do? So, I need to go through this volume. So that's my plan. I am going to read volumes 38, 39, and 40's worth of translated chapters. And then at that point, I feel like I'm going to have to wait at least another month or two before volume 41's chapters are completed. So there'll be that. But it'll be worth it. But yeah, after this, there's no way I can wait. I thought about it and I was like, no. Even before I read this one, I was like, no, they're just sitting there waiting. No, I'm going to read them. So yeah, because there's like, 12 chapters there I could read. So, oh my gosh, this volume. Oh my gosh. I felt so much stress and anxiety this volume. This volume was short. It was not a long reaction because I felt like it was 30 pages short. I was like, why is this volume so short? No. And it really is, but there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 chapters in it, but they're all short chapters. Like chapter 211 is the longest chapter. It's like it's 26 pages. And then it's 26 pages. Chapter 212 is only 20 pages. And then chapter 213 is 61, 71, 81. It's like 32 pages. The Dazzling Warrior chapter is really long. And then from there, chapter 214 is 93, 103. It's 30 pages long too. And then Yeah, so really, chapters 211 and 212 are short chapters, and then 213, 14, 15, and 16 are all the regular length. So for whatever reason, chapters 211 and 212 were a lot shorter than they normally are, which it's fine, but it made the reading go by so quickly. I was like, oh my gosh, we're already here. So, but the way that the chapters are broken up, it's like Kusanagi plans out her series of, okay, we're going to talk about this plot point, this chapter, this plot point, that chapter. And I mean, she just may have gotten to the point for 211 and 212 that she just couldn't make them as long as normal, which is fine. But yeah, the whole volume is only 177 pages, and normally it's like 198 or 203 or something like that. It feels like a whole chapter short worth of pages, but what do we do? But yeah, I do like the English translation a lot, so I am going to be a little bit sad reading the fan translation because sometimes translations can be a little off, but whatever, it's fine. So yeah, in this chapter 211, Yona is saying that she'll command the army. She's like, fine. Because Yona at this point realizes that Soo-won is not in good shape, and he does not need to be alone on the battlefield. And she, again, trusts that Hak will be fine. And so she's like, I need to stay with him. And Kishuk is actually surprised that she said yes. And I'm like, dude, don't be surprised anymore. Yona's like doing whatever's best for her kingdom, right? And I love how the dragons like stand up for her and they're like all gung-ho. Zeno is surprisingly absent from these three. These three with her, Zeno is not there. So it's interesting that it's these three dragons talking to her. And so, the whole thing about the marriage, that's like the part of my stomach that makes me go, no, I don't want this. I don't want her to think that Hak is dead and like go through with the marriage to Soo-won. I don't want her to do that because Hak is not dead and he loves her, and I don't want her to marry Soo-won. So I'm like, they joke about doing like the marriage thing. She's like, I'm not saying that we're together, but if it helps us on the battlefield to look more legitimate and to make Soo-won not look like he's injured, then we'll just go along with the engagement and just go with it. But I don't want a battlefield wedding between Soo-won and Yona because it's clear that Soo-won doesn't want that and Yona doesn't want it either. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want a marriage out of convenience between these two, because then if Hak shows up and he's like, you're married, okay. No, none of that bullshit drama, Kusanagi. Don't you do that. Don't you be doing that bullshit drama. No. It's just all for show, right? It's just for show, the whole drama about them looking engaged to seem like it's just going to cover their bases for now, right? But meanwhile, Guntei's still badly injured, and she's like, I wonder if Hak and Yoon have reached the Earth tribes. And she's like, what did my dream mean? And I think, going back and rereading Volume 36 and Volume 37, I think that Yona, if she stays at Hiryu Palace, then the dragons are going to be put in danger and could potentially die. I feel like that's what's going to happen. Like, if she stays there, something's going to get triggered, or she needs to leave Hiryu Palace for them to not, for them to stay alive. I don't know. Because it seems like if she stays there, something bad's going to happen. But I don't know at this point. It seems like just the fire in Hiryu Palace, I don't know. It does not bode well, right? But Hak and Yoon on their journey, going to get the Senju herb, and Hak becoming like Yona, he can't abandon the people there. Like he knows, just like Yoon doesn't want to abandon the people and he wants to save them, and Yona doesn't want to abandon her people because she knows she can help out. And she needs to stay there for Soo-won. Hak doesn't want to leave because he knows he can help out as well. And it's like, what do we do? Right? And then poor Gulfin. I feel bad for Gulfin because he blames himself for Guntei's injuries. And he just looks like a little mini Hak. It's so cute. And then they have the whole thing about the enemy attack. And Hak's like, someone has to step up and take Guntei's place. And he's like, I've been given this gift to be a soldier and to battle. He's like, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like Hak, if he's the shield or whatever, or the sword, I feel like he's the sword and he keeps on just fighting over and over again and he can't be struck down, right? I don't know. The whole sword and shield argument I've been kind of like tabling because we haven't gotten really any more hints with it. But Hak's just like, no, you go on Yoon and I'll take care of this. Someone has to stick around and take Guntei's place to keep the troops' morale up. And I love that Yoon in this volume, he looks so sweet. And he has like, just like the big eyes, and he's like, well, I am the pretty boy genius after all. And I love Hak's smile where he's like, it's been a while since I've heard that. It's like, oh, it's just, oh my God. He's like, give Gigan my message. So Hawk was planning all along. He's like, we'll need reinforcements. We don't know how long it's going to take for Kija and Jeha to get here. So go tell Gigan that we need all the help we can get. Send us back supplies and stuff so that we'll be okay. And then, yeah, everybody's talking about how strong General Gunte is, how strong Hawk is. And I love that Soo-won I love that Yoon doesn't want to leave because he's like, I want to stay and help heal them. But he has this mission for Soo-won. And so it's just, ugh. But that shot of Hawk on the horseback with the glaive looking so fierce. Oh my gosh. I can't, y'all. I can't. Like his eyes and everything. Kusanagi, that double spread. Just Hawk, my dude. And they talk about him not having money for armor. I'm like, no, armor holds him down. He can't, he's bare, he's raw. He's our boy Hawk. No. I love he's like, thanks for your hard work so early in the morning. Oh, Hawk was just this, I feel like this volume went by really quickly because there were so many like action shots and different like battle images that Kusanagi drew. It was just, oh my gosh. And Hawk's whole thing about being a new recruit of the Sky Tribe Army, like he constantly is like, I don't want to be known as the Thunder Beast. I'm not the former General of the Wind Tribe. He's like, I'm just a new recruit of the Sky Tribe Army. I'm a nobody. I'm really good at doing dishes. I'm good at cleaning up. I'm like, Hawk, if you're great with the dishes, then this flood won't be a problem for you. Right? He's like, if you can't deal with me, you can forget about getting into Quokka. You won't get past my glaive. I'm just like, Hawk. And so, yeah, Yoon goes to Awa at that point. And yeah, and then we see Gigan and all them. I love that he gives Gigan, so the Senju herb, we're only given one bag of it because it's out of season. It's not something that grows year round. It has seasons and they get it now. I'm like, we'll talk about the Senju herb when Hawk takes it in my head canon that I want to have happen. But I love that he gives him the note and it's from Jeha at first, not Jeha, and it just says love. And she's just like, like she knows. She knows Jeha's messing with her. It's so good. I love Gigan. I missed her. We only see her for like a couple pages and it's so sad. I'm like, I want more of Gigan. But she asks for all this stuff and she's like, that's a tall order, but... And the idea that Gigan and the pirates have been holding up Awa and like keeping it safe from the Kai Empire. Like it feels so long ago that we were there, like at the start of this series. It feels so long ago. And it really has been, but just seeing these characters again. I love the little beady-eyed man. He's got like a little goatee now. It's really cute. It's great. I love the one guy that's from the tribe, the one that like was all about you back in the day. He's like, hey, you, like, it's like, you again. Like, I love that callback. Like Kusanagi doesn't forget, right? Kusanagi doesn't forget. And so I like that at first Gigan's like, well, Hawk can repay by coming back to my bar. You know, I'm getting all this business with the ladies since Jeha's not here to do it. I love that Yoon's like, well, we can't do that with Hawk anymore because, you know, with Yona, like everybody's just treating them like a pair. They literally are a pair. And I'm like, and he's like, does Yona still cry a lot? And he's like, probably when I can't see her. And I love that Yoon is like, I don't want her to cry alone anymore. I'm just, that makes me so sad. I'm like, they have the Senju herb. It's because of the king's illness. I'm sure if we can cure him, I'm sure Yona will be freed. So that idea that Yoon is saying, like, that Yona is tied down by the king's illness and that she'll be so much happier if they can just heal Soo-won. I feel like that ties, like Minsu has his reasons for helping Soo-won, but then so does Yoon. And I feel like that ties directly to them. And Yoon's motivation is really tied to Yona as well. And he's like, so many people care about her. And she kept going on without giving up. Like, this volume, what Kusanagi does is that she doesn't, it's not angsty. That's the thing. There's not angst in this. And it doesn't ever feel like artificial sadness, or it doesn't feel like a storyline. We were talking in the Discord about this. It wasn't about Yona of the Dawn. We were talking about another series. But about how some anime, they feel like the storyline and the narrative is like almost tailor-made to make you feel sad for a character, or it feels kind of cliche that it hits certain beats. And one thing that's so fresh about Yona is that it can hit these emotional beats, but it's not cliche. It just gut punches you and you're like, no! It's just, God, it's powerful. So then we go to Val, and I talked to Sarah in the comments on YouTube, and she was like, oh, well, a lot of people ship Val and Maignan, but I kind of ship Yoon and Maignan too. And I'm kind of a multi-shipper, so, except when it comes to Hak and Yona. When it comes to Hak and Yona, I'm like Hak and Yona in game, but Hak and Soo-won soulmates. So I just don't want Yona and Soo-won to end up together. And I can't explain that any other way. It just doesn't feel right? It's never felt right with me. I've never liked them as a ship. I'm totally on board with Hak and Soo-won. My BL goggles come out and I'm like, yes, the angst, the history, the soulmate vibes, all of those things. And then Hak and Yona, it's like the fated pair, the prince and his princess, the knight in shining armor. Like, I'm just like, But Yona and Soo-won, I've never been for them as a pair. But I usually can multi-ship, and so I'm all aboard the train of Val and Maignan, as well as Yoon and Maignan. All about it. Can do. Yoon deserves some love, but it's clear that Val, everybody's just like, oh, you and Val, huh? Val, you and Maignan, right? And he's like, oh, well, I have mixed feelings about it. It's like, you're fooling no one. And so he tries to offer to trade places with Hatan to go on the battlefield. So yeah, in the midst of all of this madness going on, Chagel has sent Val to go back and get Maignan and to leave his mark on Coco, whatever that means. I don't like that. Nope. Don't like it at all. But we don't even we've spent like 2 pages on Val. We don't even get to talk about him this volume. We've got other stuff to go through. But yeah, so then he's like, and so then we get Ron, General Ron, which, yeah, I was trying to think why he looks so odd, and it's because he doesn't have eyebrows. He doesn't have eyebrows drawn on him. He's shaved them off, almost like it's a sign of upper class nobility that he shaved his eyebrows and has like all this heavy eyeliner and stuff on. He's a fun character. I actually ended up liking him more than I thought I would in this volume. And then the whole thing with Hak. Shut up. But yeah, so I like Ron quite a bit. I like his character. He reminds me a lot in his actions with Taejun. He reminds me a bit of Taejun, like how he like loves his subordinates and wants them to love him. And he's like, I love that he says, no matter how powerful a warrior may be, those who pay lots of money to win are favored by the gods. It reminds me of the Yu-Gi-Oh meme where Kaiba's there and he's like, screw the rules, I have money. It's like, that's what it reminds me of. So I was like, I felt like a Taejun kind of humor surrounding Ron, but he seems kind of like, not slimy, but just like prissy. And then by the end with Hak, just slay me, sir, on your glaive. But Hak, there's no way he's human. No way. Our dark dragon, he's just like, unless he's fueled by the power of love, and that's just keeping him going, because he has all these injuries and he keeps getting up and fighting over and over again. There's no way he should be alive, but he still gets up and does it. He's like, be right there. I was like, leave Hak alone. Kusanagi, why are you torturing him? Kusanagi's like, if we're going to make him OP, then we're going to make him suffer. And I'm like, you really don't have to do that. You don't have to make him suffer. We're okay with him being OP. He's like the one OP character that we're all fine with because he's such a charming knight. Like, no, stop. And yeah, a dazzling warrior. I love the image of Hak as the dazzling warrior, and he's on the horse, like, looking ragged, like he's about to pass out. Just that contrast. Kusanagi, what are you even doing? But yeah, so he's talking about how they are just trying to wear out the army. They're just sieging. They're just battling them over and over again until they've run out of food and supplies, and they're just beaten to the ground, right? It's a nightmare, as he describes it, because they have no way to get these resources. And then so the general comes in, he has like his feathers overflowing his armor and everything. It's great. And he's like all about this positive reinforcement from his troops. And he's like, I may not be as charismatic as the other generals, but I have money. It's like, you can't help but like him because he's so cheesy. I have a soft spot for like charismatic cheesy villains. I have a soft spot for them. So he's kind of one of them. I like his character a lot in this. He's fun. Kusanagi makes him like, he could just be arrogant and smug and like just sinister and slimy, but he's not slimy. He's just prissy, and I like that. But Hawk just looking like he's about to pass out. I don't like that. And Hawk's whole thing is that if I can't defend this place, this kingdom, my friends, Her Highness, none of them will be safe. And it's just like, what do you do with all this? And Hawk just coming in and just like going, I like the double spread of him like with the glaive, and then you see Ron, and he's like, it's so like hyper stylized. Oh my god! And like the glaive like blows back and like flies his feathers off. He's like, oh, that's the new recruit. And he's like, this makes no sense. And his face looks almost like a mask. It's like, I imagine it's painted white and has like the eyeliner Ron's face does. He's like, he's covered in blood and haggard. He's poor enough to have no armor. He looks on the verge of collapse. And yet as he fights, he's poetry in motion. Yeah, that's Hawk. Poetry in motion, my friend. So then they all come up through the river. And Kusanagi is so good at foreshadowing this. Foreshadowing everything with the river, with the current not being as strong as it was, and then bring all the supplies. Like Kusanagi just does perfectly with it. And then Hawk, he keeps like being hit over and over again, like with whips, with things, like with sandbags. He's like, can't I even catch a breath? Ugh! This volume just made me so anxious. I was so happy when the pirates showed up to help Hawk, because I was like, oh, thank goodness, he can catch his breath now because the pirates showed up. And he's like, I love, he says, droopy eyes, pirate friends. Like, of course, Jaeha's friends come to help Hawk. Of course, it's Jaeha's friends that come to help him, because Jaeha and Hawk are like so tied together. And so then we come back to Soo-won. Now, I will be honest, up until the very last chapter, I was a little aggravated with Soo-won because he has a wall put up. Soo-won has this big barrier between him and Yona, and Soo-won's trying to act all tough, and like he doesn't need anybody to watch over him. He's trying to be strong, but it's like, Soo-won, you can lower your defenses. You really can. And he feels like he can't in front of her. Soo-won at this point thinks that he's not worthy of Yona or Hawk's affection or love. He thinks that he's unforgivable. He's not worthy of their affections or their kindness or care. He doesn't want it. He just wants to do what he can for Koka and then die. And Yona's not going to stand around and take that. No. So Yona's showing up, and I love that he's just like, I don't need her. I don't need anything. And Yona's like, you need to at least talk to me and give me some information. She's like, we're working together. And Soo-won's just like, well, fine. But then once they start working together, once Yona and Soo-won start working together, they realize that they both kind of think the same way when they strategize. They're both thinking of the same thing, right? That Yona, she finds the way. And I love that Kusanagi ties back way back to volume 17 with Gulfin. Way back then. Like, it's been what? It's been 20 volumes. It's literally been 20 volumes. I think I said 14 in the reaction, but it's 20 volumes later. If you can believe that. She brings up a tiny plot point and that little chapter back in volume 17, that was probably one of my least favorite plot lines of Yona the Dawn at the time, because I was just like, who's this Gulfin kid? What is this? Let's move on. It was like right in the middle of something, of an arc, and I was like, let's just move on to the good stuff, right? And now we see that no, there was a reason for all of that. That it had a purpose. And I'm like, really? Kusanagi's like, just trust me, okay? And I'm like, oh my gosh. She brings up this little tiny plot point, and it ends up being the one thing that basically saves nearly everybody's lives. But yeah, the more Yona and Soo-won start working together, the more they realize they actually work really well together because they bounce ideas off each other. And Soo-won slowly realizing that she can be just as resourceful as he is. They're cousins. They both, they're cousins. Great minds think alike. It's in their blood, right? And so I love that moment where Yona like comes in. She's like, no, listen, look, I can help you. You just need to lower your defenses ever so slightly and let me come in and make this work. And I like that. And then Hawk showing up. Worth risking your life for. So this chapter, chapter 214, Hawk comes in. Hawk comes in and he's all wounded. And then at that point, he's like, I'm grateful that you're back. And they're like, oh, well, you should be fine. And they're like, oh, you were able to get the Senju herbs, right, Yoon? And he's like, oh, yeah. Because they went off to go get the Senju herbs, thinking that they were just going to come right back, say hi to everybody, and then go back to Hiryu Palace, but they've been stuck here. This chapter made me have so much anxiety, chapter 214, because I was just like, no, because it was all blowing up in Yoon's face. He's like, oh, shit. He's like, I have the Senju herb, but I can't heal Lord Gunte with it or any of you all with it because we need to save it for Soo-won. But he can't tell them about Soo-won and his illness because then that'll start a whole other thing. So he's like, I don't know what to do. And they start, and they're like, and then the part that broke my heart was the one owl pirate. He's like, Yoon, we gave you the Senju herb, but it doesn't belong to only you. And I was like, he knows that. I was like, he's not using it just for him. He's using it for Soo-won, and you all don't even know. And then Hawk takes it. Right? Hawk takes it. Because he knows Yoon's so kind-hearted that it's going to crush him. And he's like, no. He's like, I'm going to use it. And they're like, well, that's not right. And he's like, nope. He's like, I'm going to hold on to this. Yoon was following my orders. Like, Hawk takes the blame. And they're like, well, that's horrible. He's keeping it for himself, even though it could save Lord Gunte. And they're like, he's still just an outsider. And Yoon's like, no, Hawk isn't doing that. Like Hawk is risking making himself look bad to save Yoon and to save Soo-won, because Hawk doesn't use the herb from himself. Nope. He's like, that's not what we came to get it for. And he's like, Yoon, you should stay away from those villagers and then because they're only going to antagonize you. And Yoon's like, I can't do that. I still have to tend to the injured. And then I love that Hawk apologizes and he's like telling you to stay hidden was patronizing. He's like, we're both fighting in our own ways. And that just gets me so hard because here's the thing. He's holding onto that Senju herb to give back to Soo-won. Despite everything, he's going to give that herb back to Soo-won. So what I want to happen, I have things that I'm afraid is going to happen and what I want to happen. What I want to happen is that Hawk has that herb and he shows up back at the palace somehow, some way, and gives the herb to Soo-won, and that triggers them talking. That's what I want. I want Hawk to show up after all is said and done, whatever BS Kusanagi gives us. I want him to show up at Soo-won's feet, give him the herb, and be like, we're going to heal you, and then that's going to start the conversation that Hawk did all this despite everything. That's what I want. What I'm afraid is going to happen is that he's going to show up with the herb just like that, and Yona and Soo-won are going to be like, everybody's going to be like, oh, Yona and Soo-won are getting married because I thought you were dead. I don't want that. I'm really worried about that plot line because I don't want it. It's useless BS. We all know at this point that Hawk and Yona are in game, and Soo-won and Hawk can be soulmates, and they all three just need to live together in a palace. But I don't want there to be that BS. And it's been in romances before, and I don't like it. And so I don't want Kusanagi to do it here. Or if she does do that BS, I want her to resolve it within the next chapter. None of that. But I want Hawk to show up with that Senju herb so badly. That's all I want. To show up with that Senju herb in front of Soo-won and completely break that wall down. Because Yona is slowly chipping away at it. Yona is chipping away at that wall with Soo-won to say no, we can work with you. Despite everything, we can still move forward to save our kingdom. You don't have to be alone. Right? Yona's chipping that wall away, but Hawk is going to be, this whole volume is about floods and bursting dams. Hawk needs to take that glaive and just tear down that wall of Soo-won's and just let it all in. That's what I want. That's what I want. But I don't know if we're going to get anytime soon. Guess we'll find out, right? We got 3 more volumes to read before I'm caught up. So yeah, then Ron's whole plan was to distract Hawk. Ron's entire plan was to distract Hawk so while they could get the embankment broke. So it was just to keep wearing him out, to keep him stuck there, right? To keep them from leaving or moving anything, so he'd be stuck there for the flood. And him saying that Hawk, he's like, you say you're a nobody, but I believe that you're a mainstay of Koka's army. And he's like, that's my sincerest opinion of you. And Hawk's like, fine. He's like, I'm still a nobody, but okay. He's like, bring it on. And it's just like, ah! And so that's when he starts his plan. And luckily, the 2 owl pirates, they notice that something's up. They go to the embankment and figure out that they're going to flood it. Hawk realizes at the same time that something's not up, and then he realizes the same thing. Everybody realizes all at once that this bad thing is about to happen. And he's like, oh my God, nope. He's like, they're going to flood the entire Kin province to wipe everybody out. And I just, and Ron won't let him leave, but he just like tells him to get out of his way, and he tries to like warn everybody to get out of there because the flood's coming. And then the two pirates, I was like, who's gonna save the two pirates? And when I saw the little knife, at first I thought maybe it was like Algira for some reason, but then it's Jaeha. It's like, oh no, they made it there in time. Like, of course, Jaeha and Kija are the two fastest. They could go there quickly, right? And so then we have the destruction of Kin province. And Yoon realizing like at the top that there's a flood approaching. And Toku and Maya, those are the two pirates' names. And they're just like, Jaeha, and sing him. I love that shot of Kija like with his hand like getting bigger, and Jaeha has like all the knives. It's so good. He's like, we're in charge of taking the vanguard. And that shot of them, it's so damn good. I love that shot of the two of them going to attack, and they have like their knives in their hand. Those of us that are Jaeha and Kija shippers, I am one of them. We are fed this volume, this chapter 215, we are fed with the two of them together. That Jaeha's like, if I'm taking anyone with me, it's Kija. For, strategic purposes, of course. Strategically, because it's the best decision, right? And then Judo shows up, and it's like you think everything is going really well, because Judo shows up, Jaeha and Kija are there. Soo-won's like, Jaeha, I want you to lead the way. It makes the most sense. You're the best person to tackle this terrain, that sort of job. And then I like that Yona's like, just be careful. Like, just make sure you get back there. And this whole time, they all have heard that there's an Earth Tribe soldier that's holding back Kin Province. But they don't know that it's Hawk. I like the idea that Hawk has been slowly moving from tribe to tribe as he goes. He started out in the Sky Tribe, and he started out in the Wind Tribe. Then he's become a Sky Tribe member. Then he's become an Earth Tribe member. And I'm like, now we've got like the Water Tribe and the Fire Tribe, right? I like just Hawk's making his world tour of being confused as a member of these tribes. Well, he was with the Fire Tribe though. He was, right? He was with the Fire Tribe when they were, okay, kind of, yeah. When they were fighting, oh yeah, when they were fighting Quelbo, he was part of the Fire Tribe. He was. So yeah, Hawk has been moving from tribe to tribe, like becoming a member of all of them. Again, that's supporting my theory that Hawk is going to become the sword. He's going to become the king, right? That Hawk could become the king alongside Yona, because he would unite all the tribe members together by serving as a general, essentially, for all the tribes. That's a really good point, right? Because if Soo-won's goal, like Soo-won right now doesn't consider Yona and Hawk being options for the throne, but I feel like Kusanagi is slowly getting them to whittle down that wall with Soo-won, where Soo-won is starting to see slowly but surely that Yona is capable of being a queen. She has the voice, she has the authority, she has the prowess, and she's like him in terms of strategy and thinks like him, that he could see her being able to be queen. And then Hawk, it's somebody that needs to, Soo-won's whole deal is uniting the 5 tribes. And we've established that like the Earth Tribe and stuff, they want a strong leader. So Hawk moving from the Sky Tribe and the Wind Tribe to the Fire Tribe and Earth Tribe is showing that he has good rapport with all of these tribe members. So he could be somebody that the tribes could be like, oh yeah, General Hawk, we'll unite under his banner. That very well could be too. I mean, we still have the Water Tribe, but yeah, the idea that Kusanagi could be setting this up, that Hawk, and of course it's the water that's the problem right now. So I'm like, maybe Riri will find him along the banks somewhere and be like, oh look, there's Hawk. But yeah, maybe that's what Kusanagi is setting up, to show Soo-won that Hawk and Yona could be capable of ruling Koka if something were to happen to him. Maybe. But yeah, and then Soo-won said, I'd be very interested to know what sort of soldier is fighting in Kin Province right now. I'd like to meet him. And it's Hawk. And Jaeha's like, we need to, and Kija's like, then if Soo-won wants to meet him, we'll show him off and bring him back once we protected the people. And Jaeha's like, I like that plan. I want him to see Hak. I want Soo-won and Hak to meet again so badly. Why can't we have nice things? Why can't we have these things, Kusanagi? Why? I have my wish list, and that's like at the top of my wish list is for Soo-won and Hak to reconcile. I'm not asking for much. I don't feel like it. But yeah, so they tell him to like get on the boat and Yoon and them, and they're trying to like, he tries to help the soldier climb up the tree, and the soldier's like, I'm so sorry that I like tried to like take the herb from you, and he's like, it's okay. He's like, Hak knows it's fine too. And then Jaeha and Kija save them. It's so good. And I love that the soldier, like, everyone in Kija's arms are like that soldier in Kija's arms is like, oh yeah, I'm fine. But then Hak, he's like, your soldiers are calling for you. And then General Ron, to his credit, is like, no, this is single combat. I'm not leaving till one of us is done. And Hawk's like, then fine, I'm gonna knock you out, right? And he does. He knocks him out. And he's like, okay. And the bandages are just like in the cover of the volume. And he's like, no, Yoon is clever. I'm sure it'll be safe. Him having faith in Yoon. And then he's about to leave and he hears the horse. And he's like, Ray Rin, get going. Get to the top of the hill. Hurry. But here's the thing. He goes off on his horse, right? He goes off on his horse. But then he comes back. He took the horse to high ground and he came back to get him. Hak took his horse where it would be safe, and then he came back on foot to put Ron up on Ray Rin, his horse, and saying, I'm not saving you, but your horse isn't going to go unless you're with her. He's like, I always feel sorry for the horses who get dragged into battle, so I'll feel guilty if I let her die. And then he like slaps the horse to make it go, and Ron's like, I feel the same way. Like, so just in that moment, these two men that have fought against one another, you find out they both have similar ideologies when it comes to horses on the battlefield. It's just like, why are you fighting? You know? But Hak, he left his horse, and then there's all the floodwaters coming. And he's like, I'm the one who got the Senju herbs. And he's like, Droopy Eyes, you're here. Thank goodness, that means Yoon is all right. And he grabs the Senju herbs, right? On his belt, right? And then, like, what? No, I hate it. I like the way he looks up at Jaeha and them. I can't. Like, I'm just like, Hak, there's no way that a stupid flood is going to kill him. I refuse to believe it. Nope. And yeah, it just, no. And Jaeha's still looking for him. Jaeha just looks so sad. And yeah, this whole chapter 216 overflowing, like just the emotion overflowing from this chapter. And Soo-won realizing that it was Hak. And Yona just in complete darkness at the prospect that Hak is missing. And her eyes, everything. And she's just so devastated, but she doesn't want to show that around her friends. How terrified she is at the prospect that he's not with her. That image of her just in all darkness, like this is the first time she's truly been alone with the concept that he may not come back. And they found his glaive, so it's like, but she puts on a good face. She puts on a chipper face. She's like, no, you guys need to rest. And everybody's crying. Like, Yoon is crying. Kija's crying. You know Jaeha would be crying. He's crying on the inside. And then, yes, Sheena's like, hey, Hak recovers pretty fast. Zeno is nowhere in this volume. Where is Zeno? He's nowhere. Zeno is, like, surprisingly absent this entire volume. Zeno is nowhere to be found. And I'm like, where he be? Where be Zeno? Is Zeno off finding Hak? Can Zeno go find Hak? That'd be great. I'm like, where's Zeno? This whole volume. He's not with Soo-won. So where is he? I'm sure we'll find out, but I'm just like, he was so absent from this volume. I'm like, where you be, Zeno? And then Yoon. Yoon's like, so yeah, the Senju herb, they don't know where that is. It's with him. And I just love that little moment where Yoon puts his head up against Yona's forehead and he's like, he'll be all right, right? He's like, the Thunder Beast is going to be okay, right? And then Guntae regained consciousness. So I was a little disturbed because they say Guntae retains consciousness, and then immediately the Sky Tribe people are like, the Wind Tribe kids are like, I heard that Guntae's dead. And I'm like, what? But it was just a rumor, right? But they show up asking where Hak is and saying they want to see him. And Kishuk is like, okay, what do we do? Because Kishuk's like, if I tell them that he's dead, they're not going to be in good spirits to go fight. But if I lie to them, then they're going to find out eventually. And that's when Yona comes in, and just her eyes. She looks so sincere, but then she like turns around and leaves. And Kishuk's face when she says Hak isn't at Hiryu Palace just now, he's just like he kind of like side eyes her. That look from Kishuk is so good. It's like, whoo. Like Kishuk, Kusanagi drew him so well in that panel. And she's like, it's fine. And then Yoon is there with Maignan. And I like Maignan says, well, it's fine that you didn't bring me the herb as long as you're safe. I'm like, my shipper heart. I'm like, yes, please. But it's like, how's the princess? And then Maignan's like, oh, is she in a puddle of tears because the Thunder Beast is gone? And he's like, no. Yona said she's sure he's okay. And if she says so, then I've got to believe it. And then we go back to Soo-won, who is just like thinking about ways in which Hak could be alive, right? And thinking about him and just trying not to think. But then Yona, she's saying she wants to know more about Kai Empire and learn battle strategies. And she's just shaking because she's so scared, right? And Soo-won offering her his like robes. Oh my God. Like offering her his coat and asking if she needs it. And I'm like, Soo-won, she is devastated. I'm like, do you not get it that she loves him? And she's like, stop going back to acting like my childhood friend again. She's like, stop. She's like, warriors from the Wind Tribe arrived earlier and wanted to see Hak. She's like, tell me where he is, Soo-won. Don't tell me he's dead. And just, oh my God. And Soo-won can't say anything. She's like, has he been swept away? I'm sure you can figure it out. It's like, I'm sure you can figure it out. It's like, ah! And she's like, knowing Hak, I'm sure he's all right. She's like, I want to believe it, but I'm afraid. And she's like, I never thought he might actually die. And she's like, he always came back to me. Oh, this page, like, it's so heartbreaking. And Soo-won is so, like, apathetic and doesn't want to believe anything good. And she's like, I want to save Hak and I want to see him. I'm like, I want you to see Hak too! And I want him to be safe! And I want him to bring the damn herb back to Soo-won! And I want Soo-won to realize that they both love him, damn it! I'm a mess. Mess with this volume. I'm too frustrated to cry. Like I'm like dragon blood boiling within me. But yeah, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. This was the shortest volume ever. These volumes have been so short, Kusanagi. How dare you? No. I can't say anything, but I am so glad that I am not waiting for volume 38. So glad. Because that can't happen. Nope. Can't happen! Not having it. No. So yeah, I'm very glad that I'm not waiting. I'll be doing volume 38 next week. It'll be a fan translation, so hopefully the translation is good. Be Happy on Patreon sent in the Discord a link to someone that had compiled it all into volume format, so I didn't have to read chapter to chapter, which is nice. I can read it as a volume, which is good. Which is fine. I figure that it's going to be weird because I've been avoiding chapter titles, but in the same token, you'll see the chapters as you read the chapters in the version, so it's fine. So I think that's going to be okay. But, oh my God. Kusanagi, how do you do this to us? How dare you? Just so sad. I'm so sad, but I'm so happy to still be reading Yona the Dawn. I've still got 3 volumes I can read for now. And then it won't be a long wait till volume 41, so that's good. But I'm like, Kusanagi, how dare you rip our hearts out and stomp on them? Hak better be okay! But No spoilers, please. So I'm curious to know your thoughts about this volume down below. Please, no spoilers, no hints, no clues. I'm going to be reading the next volume next week, so it'll be fine. I'll find out answers, hopefully, but sad days. So, what a way to come back after being a week off. So, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care. And yeah, I'll be back with volume 38 of Yona of the Dawn next week. Bye.